So I suppose I want to start though just with a quick question. As investors, the question is, when do you invest in a lithium company? And a little bit of a price chart here, a company you probably all know quite well. And so if we go back to the start, it was a early stage exploration company, had a few projects, a bit of copper, a bit of gold. Some of the projects were in jurisdictions you probably don't want to operate in. But then they decided to focus on lithium. And in 2014 came out with an 8 million tonne maiden resource. 4 years after that, they came into production. 4 years after that, they paid their first dividend, $15 billion in the bank. I'm talking about Pilbara Minerals. And I suppose the reason I highlight that is not just because we came out with an 8 million tonne maiden resource earlier this year, but if you'd invested $5,000 in Pilbara Minerals in like the first 6 months of that maiden resource, it'd now be worth about $550,000, $600,000. How did they get there? Well, off the maiden resource, they continued to drill and grow, and then also obviously push the project into production as quickly as they could. That's pretty much the same thing we're trying to do here at Mavis Lake. So as I said, I won't go through all of these slides in a lot of detail, but I'll stop to talk to a few key points. And the big one here on the bottom right-hand corner is our strategy. How do we intend to create real growth and real value for shareholders? So that's, like I said, resource growth year on year on year. There's a lot of work we have to do to bring a project into production. Permitting is one thing that we know is on the critical path for us. There is a set amount of time we have to build up a body of knowledge around the environment and the conditions in order to actually get the project permitted. So what do we do with that time? Keep drilling in parallel, do all our design and technical work in parallel, and actually look at where we can speed things up and get tonnes into the market as quickly as we can. The board and management, and I'm sort of guessing that most of the other presenters today will speak to similar points as yesterday, and a really common theme that wasn't by design was people. People being the key to any good, effective organisation and any real capability. And we're the same, and I suppose what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do at the moment, is build a team of people that have got real-world experience in actually bringing hard rock lithium projects online and into production. Most of the team that I'm building, like myself, all started with lithium in Altura. It was a very interesting journey at Altura, but a lot of lessons learned on project delivery, plant design, early stage optimisation and ramp up. And there's not many companies involved in lithium that can say they've actually got a team of people that have delivered a hard rock project before. The two chaps on the bottom right-hand side are recent recruits, Stuart and Brady. I've worked with them both. They've had light touch points with us. So Stuart was working, just giving some guidance on our studies work, and Brady also involved in all of our metallurgical test work, just started full-time, and it's fantastic to have them on board. And they are all guns blazing, seeing how we can move the project forward from a studies and design perspective as quickly as we can. Another interesting addition on the bottom left-hand corner, Anthony C. For anyone who's ever invested in Galaxy, you would know who Anthony is. For anyone who's ever done anything in lithium in China or North America, you would know who Anthony is. He's an exceptional individual within the industry. He has created significant value through all the entities he's been involved with, both in hard rock projects, early stage project discovery in Canada, building downstream chemical capacity in China. He's extremely well networked and knowledgeable, both in the lithium industry, but then also from an investment perspective, how he's created real value for shareholders. His networks into North America and the automotive sector are also an added bonus for us, as we see that market as a key opportunity for us given where our project's located. So North American lithium opportunity, and I will focus in on this because it's sort of probably something that's a little bit forgotten sitting here in Australia. We talk about EVs and EV penetration rates and the world's moving to electrification. That's all true. But if we sort of zero down on North America specifically and the market that we intend to supply into, there's some real nuances in terms of what's actually coming out, particularly with government incentives. And the key thing here is the government is writing big cheques, but they're not a free-for-all. They're actually designed to create industries and supply chains that do not exist at the moment. So in order to qualify for IRA and tax credits as a consumer, the material actually has to be sourced from IRA-compliant projects or manufactured with components that are actually occurring in mainland US. So it's, again, a unique thing for us, with not only Canada being IRA compliant, but where we're physically located being so close to Michigan State, which is a massive automotive hub. Again, quite a strategic opportunity for us to leverage. And we talk about the American market itself. Now, there are two specific reference points here. So I suppose the chart is all WoodMac data from the end of last year, where they predicted by 2030 that North America would need, I think 1,000 tonnes LCE of chemical production by 2030 to meet the demand. And then you see a chart of projects that are operating. Anything that's asterisk is yet to come online. So there's still project delivery, financing and sort of ramp up risk associated with those. And there's still a massive gap. And then you've had Tesla, who came out in March this year saying, well, we alone need 1,000 tonnes by 2030. So my question is, what is Ford, GM, Stellantis, everyone else doing? It's very, very clear that there is a massive supply deficit that is here now and will run well into 2030 and onwards. And our opportunity is to, leverage our position and location and be part of filling that gap. So Mavis Lake itself, we're in northwest Ontario. I didn't know where that was until I came to this company. Now I go there pretty regularly, so it sort of resonates with me. As a reference point, it's about as far away on the globe as you can be from Perth. It does take a long time to get there. But it's a great position. So we are seeing a lot of activity in northwest Ontario. There's a belt of, I suppose, Aussie companies, like us, taking their experience in the Pilbara and applying it to exploration and project development in Canada. You've got a lot of activity in James Bay that is much further north and does come with some sort of logistics challenges that that we don't have to deal with. As I mentioned, we're right next to the town of Dryden. Dryden is a base of operations for us. So residential exploration program will transition into a future residential operation. Gives us significant cost savings. So, we've been able to define our resource very cost effectively. No, you're right. And that's not just because we're keeping a close eye on all the dollars going out the door, but we don't have to deal with remote logistics. We don't have to deal with remote camps. I was talking to someone about potentially mobilising a second drill rig, and we said, we've got a price, it'll be $5,000. He said, $50,000 mobilisation fee, that's pretty cheap. I said, no, it's $5,000, because they're just driving it from Winnipeg, which is 2 hours up the road. That's it. It's a very different sort of exploration scenario to what most of our peers have to deal with. In terms of highlights, so we mentioned before, so 8 million tonne resource, defined after 11 months of drilling. The lithium exploration market, from an ASX perspective, is pretty saturated. We made a conscious decision of wanting to elevate ourselves out from the pack and at least have something real and tangible that you could define the company on and then build on. So not only can you value us based on what we have, but you can see what we've got and obviously where we can go. As soon as the maiden resource came out, there was a little footnote saying we have additional drilling data and assay results to go into a future upgrade, and that was in May. We've obviously just kept drilling since then, and I suppose the interesting thing is, our first drill run for this year in June, we had a 74-metre intercept. It was way beyond anything we'd expected. And so we were on to what we sort of have termed the swell zone. If anyone's seen today, we had some announcement come out today with some results sort of 65, 50 metres either side of the swell zone, proving up, I suppose, a real mass that does trend up to surface. But we're on to something much bigger than what we thought originally. Outside of that, there's still multiple MAP spodumene-bearing outcrops around the Mavis Lake main zone that we haven't drill tested. We also acquired an extension to the property late last year that has an 8 kilometre of strike with MAP spodumene-bearing outcrops all the way along in a nice linear structure that we're yet to drill test. It's all part of the larger project area. We have prospecting happening on site at the moment as well, and have found other areas that we think have potential. There's pegmatite outcrops. We want to test and see what they're actually there to see if we've got the spodumene presence as well to justify future drilling. I suppose, in short, Mavis Lake is a very target-rich environment for clear resource growth. And we're focusing all of our efforts on that single site and that single project in order to ensure that every tonne that we unlock still gets that added benefit of having immediate access to road, rail, power, drawing off Dryden and making us a low-cost operator of the future. So just some of the highlight reel of assays that we've had over the last sort of 14 months. Again, the section to the top, you'll see a real step change in sort of intercepts in terms of thickness that aren't in the current resource. The marker's off to the side. We have some drill pads that we're under permit in order to continue to test the swell zone to the west. We expect those permits in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be back hitting that from the right angle to make sure we're drilling it as best we can. What we're doing in the meantime is actually tracking back and following the swell system back to the east. I suppose to a degree infill drilling, but what it's actually doing is we're having intercepts that are 2 to 3 times what was modelled as part of the resource. So not only are we getting a high confidence in terms of category lift on the MRE, but we're actually proving that the modelling and assessment that was done for the resource estimate was very conservative, and we've got more tonnes than we actually thought. So it's a great result for us. I suppose ultimately I can see we're very much on the pathway for a resource upgrade in the beginning of next year. A lot of people have said, what are you after? What are you going to come out with? What I'd like to do is something that means that Mavis Lake itself is a walk-up start project. So something in the order of 14 to 15 million tonnes. The economics stack up for a project of that size. That doesn't mean we stop there. The next thing is if we have 15 million tonnes, what's our pathway and target to get to 20 million tonnes? Ultimately, we want to build this up over the next couple of years because we can't go too fast. We've got to do all the permitting work as well. So we have time to grow and grow. I want to get to around 30, 40 million tonnes and then talk about a production profile that would allow us to feed into 45, 50,000 tonnes LCE a year of chemical supply that originated from Mavis Lake. The northern property, obviously, it's all one big contiguous block, but the northern prospects are where we see some real blue sky potential in terms of step change in resource. We only need to mirror the success we've had at Mavis Lake, which didn't have, I suppose, the outcropping potential that we see here, and all of a sudden we double very, very quickly. This slide again, I've sort of spoken to the infrastructure, and that's great that we've got an actual path to market. I suppose the thing I'd like to point out is the market we have a path to. So there are existing rail networks that run from Mavis Lake down into Chicago and also down to Sudbury and into southern Ontario. There are existing rail and road networks that run down to Thunder Bay, which is an active deep water port, which apart from allowing us to ship anywhere in the world, allows us to go directly to the ports in Michigan State. The interesting thing here is we're also tracking $45 billion worth of industry and government investment into Michigan State and Southern Ontario. And it's not about creating jobs, it's about maintaining jobs. Government and industry always wants to reinforce and keep what it's got. And obviously Detroit is well known globally as an automotive hub. And this is all about ensuring as they electrify their production lines, they're actually able to do that and be cost competitive. So we see a real opportunity here for Mavis Lake to feed directly into that market. So again, I suppose finishing up with right on time, in a very simple message, the right place, the right project and the right pathway. The place being physically where Mavis Lake is located, and although the infrastructure that we're able to leverage that enables us to be an extremely low-cost explorer and ultimately be a very cost-effective operator as we move the project forward. The place also being where we are from a sort of more holistic sense in terms of the North American market and the opportunities that presents. The right project being that we have a resource. Every time we have a positive drill hit now, we are adding tonnes to that resource, and we will continue to do that for the next 2, 3, 4 years. The metallurgical properties are also stacking up really well. So we've done basic level met test work. We know we can make a good, clean concentrate with low impurities, something that I've sold a lot of into the Chinese market, and I know the material that we're producing is going to be able to find a home very, very rapidly in any market that we want to put it into. And the right pathway, I suppose here there's 2 points. The right pathway in terms of a pathway to market. We are not landlocked, isolated project. There is infrastructure to get the material into the supply chain. And the right pathway again being the team who have delivered one of these projects before. We know what we need to do in order to advance the project, design, deliver, commission, ramp up and operate a hard rock lithium project. So ultimately we know the right pathway to get us where we want to be. That's it from me. Thank you very much.